Stock market, baby, stonks. They only go up. Hello, good morning, happy Vlogmas. We are about 10 days away from Christmas now. Maybe less, maybe 9 days till Christmas? I don't know, math. Anyway, I thought today would be a good day to tackle some of those requests that you made on day 1 of Vlogmas. One of which being to look at my bookshelf and go over certain book recommends. You big nerds. I brought a prop, putting on my glasses so that you take me more seriously when I talk about books. Everybody knows only nerds read books and nerds all wear glasses. These don't have glass in the glasses because I already have perfect vision, nerd. So I might have mentioned before, I think I mentioned it on JK News, but I actually I donated 80% of my book collection back in 2015 when I was doing Marie Kondo. Because she says, like, after you read a book, you probably won't read it again, so you should donate it because it's creating clutter and it doesn't bring joy. So I was like, okay, it was really hard, and then I did it, and then I regretted it. Because actually books do bring me joy. Back when I was 18 years old, so like yesterday, Nikki? Yes, yesterday, I made a promise to myself that no matter how busy life gets, I would always read at least 1 book a month. This year has been a lot more than 1 book a month, but at least 1 book a month since I was 18, which we are not gonna do math, but it's about 200 books minimum. And all of these would be nonfiction books because the whole point was for continued education. Not that you can't read fiction books, but the 1 book a month minimum is nonfiction to sharpen life skills, to gain knowledge in specific areas, to further develop knowledge in certain areas. Also, it's a statistic that most college graduates do not read another book after they graduate college, which is bananas to me because that's how you keep your mind sharp. Guys, we need to be reading books. I dropped out of college, so that statistic doesn't apply to me. Thank God. I didn't finish college. What do I look like? A nerd? Let me put you on a tripod. Okay, so I have a lot of books, but I'm gonna try to break these down into categories as well as let you know what the top books that I recommend are. And this is all just my personal recommendations. You take it with a grain of salt. You don't have to listen to me. But I do get asked all the time, like, what books I recommend. And that's really, that's a tricky question because people are at all different levels depending on what topic it is. But I will give you what I think are the best books to start out with. Let's get started. It's just really bright in the background. That's just how it's gonna be. I can't do anything about it. I don't have any books on lighting. Maybe I should purchase some. I thought we'd start off with money because money is probably the one subject I have the most books about. I wouldn't say I don't know if it's the most important, but it definitely has a lot of topics within that topic. So there's personal finance, and then there's credit, and there's debt, and there's business, and there's all kinds of different, and there's mindset. So there's all kinds of different books there. The book that started all of this reading off that I would 100% recommend is this book, Rich Dad Poor Dad. I'm sure you've heard of it before. It's almost a cliche now that everyone tells you about this book. It did change my life. I read it when I was 18 years old, and it drastically altered the course of my life. I don't think I would have dropped out of college had I not read this book, and I'm also not recommending that everybody drop out of college, but for me this solidified that choice for the path that I wanted to go on, which was not a professional like a teacher or a lawyer or a doctor or anything like that. For the particular path that I felt most pulled towards, I realized that college wasn't for me. I just previously to this book, I didn't feel like there was any other choice. This completely altered my mindset on how the world works and how the system is set up and the choices to be made to protect your future, basically. I think the concepts in this book still hold true today, even though it was written in like the year 2000 or something. It was written in 1997, but the concepts still hold true today. Highly recommend this book as far as shifting your mindset goes. Every single video that you will watch on investing and most books that you read on investing will always tell you that the best investment you can make is in yourself. And you know, you hear that and it sounds really cheesy, but I could not agree harder with that statement because you need your brain to operate a certain way, because if you are just learning the how-tos without the why-tos, it won't stick. This book, highly recommend. I don't care how you feel about Robert Kiyosaki, this is an excellent book. As well as this other book, Cash Flow Quadrant, just as if not more important than that first book. The basic concept behind this book is that Robert Kiyosaki grew up with two dads. One was his real dad, who was poor and was a teacher and taught him to go through the whole system that we're all taught to go through. And the other was a rich dad who was his friend's dad, who ran multiple businesses and knew how to make his money work for him, like leverage his money and his resources and his business and his assets to create passive income for himself so that he could spend more time with his family. This one is more about the mindset between each of these quadrants, which is an employee, a self-employed, a big business owner, and an investor. This was really eye-opening to the way that a lot of us are trained to think from a very young age and not even really realizing that we're trained to think that way. This was not to push anyone to any one of these quadrants in particular. Some people are employees and they like being employees, and that's like what fulfills them with the most joy. They like it. It's better for their type of lifestyle, but he also teaches you how you can still be an employee and leverage your money and have it work for you so you can have your fulfilling career as well as financial freedom and time. These other two books get recommended to you a lot when you start delving down this rabbit hole. I think they're also worth it. This one by Napoleon Hill, he basically, when was this written? This was written a while back, but he basically interviewed all the top most wealthiest billionaires and millionaires at that time and asked them a bunch of questions about their lives and how they became so rich, and he found that all of them had certain things in common. So he compiled a list of their common traits and put them in a book. Basically, the point is, if you want to be successful, do what successful people do. This one's called The Richest Man in Babylon, and it is a fiction book, but through the story, you can relate it to how the world still operates to this day. This is the book that holds the secrets to acquiring money, keeping money, and making money earn more money. Truth. It's also a quick read. Like, it's a little baby book. You could do it. Next, we got this book, I Will Teach You to Be Rich by Ramit Sethi. I hope that's how you pronounce his name, I'm so sorry. There's a picture of him right here. I read this book because it just recently started being recommended on a lot of the book lists. I will say this is a good book. It's a lot of the basics of personal finance. It's better if you read this book when you're young though, like 18 to 25. After that, I feel like a lot of what's being taught is either too basic or like you're too late. The principles will still work, it's just like, if you want to be rich, you would have to start when you're like 18 to 25. Dave Ramsey, Total Money Makeover. This is a famous book about getting out of debt. This is I would recommend if you're older. So anyone older than 25, I think this is a great book for you, especially if you have a lot of debt. I guess you could be younger than 25 and have a lot of debt. This book is really good at helping you get out of that debt and just live a better life and create wealth, which is what we all want to do anyway, right? But if you're in a lot of debt, you're just hindered a lot. Unfortunately, in the United States of America, consumerism is promoted, but personal finance skills are not. So what ends up happening is you get access to a credit card, you max out that credit card, you don't really know how it works, and then you're left with tons of debt with lots of interest on that card, or cards. I think this is a fantastic book. It'll teach you how to get out of debt, as well as like if you're not in debt yet, it'll help you prevent from getting into debt. And if you're not in debt right now, it'll teach you how to go on to the next step, which is investing your money and building wealth. A couple things that I don't like about this book is that he's completely against credit cards. I think that if you utilize credit cards properly, you can actually use them to your advantage a lot, and you can lower your basis of your cost of living. For example, there's one card that I have that you can use your points for traveling, and when you use your points for traveling, you actually spend a lot less on traveling than you would be if you didn't use that card. I also only put things on a credit card that I already have the cash to back it up. So the balance, the entire balance gets paid off every month, which is the only way I would do a credit card. If you don't do that, then you're just accumulating interest, and interest is what's gonna kill you. the actual putting money on the credit card is not what's gonna kill you. That, if you have the cash to back it up, will earn you lots of points and you could get lots of shit for free. And the way that you're able to get all that shit for free is because credit card companies bank on most people not paying off their balances every month and them collecting a fuck ton of money in interest. Your perks are basically paid for by other people's debt. The other thing I don't particularly like about this book is that he highly suggests mutual funds. I don't like mutual funds at all. But I'll tell you what I do like: stock investing. I want to do a more in-depth video on investing. This isn't the video for that, but I will brush over a couple of things because I'm talking about these books. When I was 19 years old, I was in the bookstore and I was in the business section looking for books on investing, and this old man came up to me and he pulled me aside and he said, "You're looking for books on investing? These are the only 2 books that you'll ever need." I mean, this was 2006, so I've read books since then, but he was pretty much right. So rule number 1 is by Phil Town, and he basically breaks down Warren Buffett's value investing strategies in a more layman's terms type of way. Phil Town was a river guide. He's also a war veteran, but he was a river guide when he first got into investing, and he got into investing by accident. He like saved some really hotshot investors from drowning in a river. Anyway, it's a much lengthier story than that, but point being, they felt like he saved their lives, so they taught him how to invest, and then he became a millionaire. He went from having $1,000 in his bank account to a millionaire in 1 year or 2 years. I don't remember. One of those. It was impressive nonetheless. And this was back in like the 90s. So he wrote a book, and most of the strategies were Warren Buffett strategies, which is why the guy also recommended this book, Warren Buffett Way, which is basically a biography on Warren Buffett and his mindset and his strategies. And I think these are really great books if you want to get into individual stock investing. This book in general, Warren Buffett says if you don't want to get into individual stock investing, that you should just bet on the market, because the US market has a history of giving you 7 to 10% returns, and very few fund managers have been able to beat that. Oh, and then after reading this book, I ended up using his strategies and I tripled my money in 3 months. The only thing is when I was 19 years old, I didn't really have that much money, so even though I tripled my money, it wasn't life-changing. I recently got back into investing after going through David Ramsey's strategies. I am no longer in any debt. We didn't really have debt anyway, but now our cars are paid off. So no debt whatsoever. And then I also saved up 6 months of an emergency fund. And so now we're on to like more of the building wealth investing stage, in which I strongly advise implementing this strategy over mutual funds. So in March of this year, I put in, and I won't tell you how much money I put in because like, let's not get personal, but I'll talk in percentages, which is at the beginning of this year, or no, in March of this year when the pandemic first hit, the stock market crashed. I mean, almost every single company crashed. And because I had been doing research on certain companies, I invested in a few based off of these strategies, and I doubled my money within 3 months. And then I thought that might be the peak because these stocks are severely overvalued right now. I think a lot of the stocks in the stock market right now are really overvalued. In fact, I would put most of my assets into cash and just wait for another crash. However, I sold at what I thought was the peak, and then there was another dip. I bought back in because I saw these companies being valued much higher, and now I'm up 25% again, which I don't want to do the math on, but that's basically a 150% return in 9 months. A lot better than a 12% mutual fund, right? In my opinion. But I wouldn't recommend unless, you know, you read the books and you're very confident on that. Value investing is like a lot of research and a lot of patience, and that's basically the name of the game. And then you wait till your company that you've been researching goes on sale, and you buy it at a very discounted price, knowing that once the market corrects itself, you will make a huge profit. Phil Town also released 2 other books. One's called Payback Time, which I haven't read yet, and the other one is Invested, which he co-wrote with his daughter. It was mostly written by Danielle. I liked this book as well because it was basically taking all of the stuff that you learn in this book and seeing someone who's a complete beginner go through all of those steps and what her results are and what happened with her. It's a nice follow-up to these two. They're also written in completely different voices, so if this one is too analytical for you or too number oriented, this one is more story oriented and more relatable to the average, like, just, you know, your everyday person that doesn't know anything about the stock market and feels very intimidated by it. Other value investing books that were actually recommended by Philtown are this one by Guy Spear. This one's more story oriented as well, but I highly recommend, if you are gonna read any of those books, read Rule Number 1 first. I'm currently reading this book, The Dondo Investor by Monesh Pabrai. This one's same concept as Warren Buffett, Guy Spear. These are all value investing books. Another way to invest in the stock market that's very popular are growth stocks. I'm not against growth stocks. It's just a little bit more risky in my opinion. Like the dot-com boom, for example, those were all growth stocks. Right now, tech companies, electric car companies, those are all growth stocks. That being said, I did invest in a growth stock earlier this year and I got a 50% return in under a month, and then I sold it because it's too risky for me. Another perspective on investing, this is by John C. Bogle. It's Common Sense Investing, and he is really into index funds. I really like index funds too. Index funds traditionally will give you a 7 to 10% return on investment. The only thing about them is, I think if you are to do them, it needs to be for the long term. Like, you can't be pulling your money in and out because you'll lose money. It really has to stay in there so you could capture all the compounding interest. You should also put it in a Roth IRA because then you won't get taxed on it. It's all after tax dollars in your retirement account. What else? These two books, they're more on the mindset of money. This one's about like breaking preconceived notions around money, personal beliefs around money that might be holding you back from even learning or trying to make your situation better. A lot of us don't know that we were raised with these subconscious beliefs about money, like money is evil, or rich people are evil, or only lucky people get rich, or you have to be born into a rich family, or, you know, there's all kinds of different beliefs around money that could be hindering you, and I feel like she does a really good job of breaking those. This is by Jen Sincero. It's called You're a Badass at Making Money. Yes, I am. Thank you. This one's called The 4-Hour Workweek by Tim Ferriss, and I like this book because it more so talks about how you don't have to be this multi-millionaire to live a millionaire lifestyle. You can utilize your time more properly and have that lifestyle with making $50,000 a year. I won't go into that right now, but you can read all about it here. This is a really interesting read. A couple other books that I haven't read all the way yet. This one's not really a book, but this is 50 Years of Letters to the Shareholders by Warren Buffett. And this one's called Principles by Ray Dalio. I haven't read it yet, so I can't really comment. I also picked up this book a few years back called Money Master the Game by Tony Robbins. Someone had recommended it to me. I'm sure it's a great book. I didn't really get through it. This is as far as I got in it, and I don't really remember what happened in it. I'm not saying it's a bad book at all by any means, but I just didn't retain the knowledge, and also I think he says a lot of the same things that I've read in the other books. So I didn't finish reading it. It is a thick boy. I might finish reading it some other time though. Moving on. These two books are more about relating to people. Number one, I don't have this book on hand because it was one of the books that I donated, but How to Win Friends and Influence People is a good book, and I don't care what anybody says. It'll teach you how to socially interact much better in a way that will help you in your life and your business. I have mild social anxiety, and I don't think I could have done very well talking to people, which I had to do a lot of in my job, both when I worked in sales and when I worked in acting with networking and all kinds of stuff. I don't think I could have talked to anybody without the skills I learned in that book. How to Win Friends and Influence People. It's a classic and still a good read. Also, if you work in more of a corporate environment or you have some sort of leadership role, this book, Developing the Leader Within You by John C. Maxwell, is a really good book, as well as this other one called Developing the Leaders Around You, which not only teaches you how to develop the leadership within yourself, but how to empower others to also be leaders. This is marketing. This is a completely different subject, but in the same realm of basically just relating to people. There's certain things you could do to help sell your product or yourself a little bit better, or a little bit more in the niche that you want to sell yourself in or present yourself as. It's a little bit more authentic to you. I like this book because it's about how to really find your niche and market to that audience, like a smaller audience, not a big general audience, and how you can really win by knowing exactly what audience you like. If you're a YouTuber, you might kind of feel like you need to make everybody like you, and it feels like an impossible task, and you always like battle with self-hatred because you're like, I suck, because like you're reading hate comments all the time. Then you remember that you're only actually doing this for a specific group of people, you know, like the people that you relate to that also relate to you. And when you think of it that way, then you don't have to worry about those people that just don't get it anymore. Speaking of mindset, I think these books are all in the same kind of category. I read this a while back, and it's basically you incorporate one change a week. They're really cute, small change. They really are small changes, like drinking green tea, giving thanks, and they're really easy to incorporate in your life. And by the end of the year, the idea is your life will be much more enlightened and better and happier. So this is for all the people that can't finish goals. You start a goal and then you just can never cross that finish line. Great advice. This one, Atomic Habits, I just talked about it on Big Moon. It's by James Clear, and it really delves into the psychology behind why some habits stick and some don't, why you can break some habits and some habits keep coming back, and also making these incremental 1% changes over time. When we're talking about investing and like making your money grow incrementally and compound over time, this is like that, but investing in yourself. Like, tomorrow won't make a difference, but over time it makes a huge difference, and you don't even realize that that's happening. It just became so much part of your life that you became the person that you wanted to be. These two by Rachel Hollis. Hollis? Yeah. Well, I don't know if she's a Hollis anymore. She just got divorced. Ooh, drama. Rachel Hollis has gotten a lot of controversy lately. I don't really know if all of it needs to be as heavy as people make it out to be. She's just she's been put under this category of toxic positivity. She does have more of that cheerleader type personality, but I also found her pretty relatable and authentic in her books. I think that everybody is a little bit flawed, and if we really wanted to get into it, like, I don't know why she gets picked apart more than other male authors in her same department. I won't get into it, but I did find these books helpful for times where you just kind of feel stuck, like when you feel stuck in life and you're just like, I just hate, I'm just not, am I not good? Like, does everybody get it but me? I thought these were great for that. This classic, Mark Manson, Subtle Art of Not Giving a Fuck, absolutely great for changing your mindset in that way. Narrowing down the things that you should give a fuck about and releasing everything else. He has really great stories in here that make his points, and I really enjoyed reading this book. This was an enjoyable read. I also have Everything is Fucked by Mark Manson. Mark Manson was actually on our podcast, If They Don't Tell You, last year, and he's amazing, and I love him. He actually reminds me a lot of Steve. I would love to meet his wife. This book is an oldie but a goodie. It's so old that like the references in here talk about saving up $50,000 to buy a house, like a whole house for $50,000. Like, and that being like a really big expensive house. I die. This is all about the mindset of the limits that you put on yourself, basically. Like, you can only get as far as your mind tells you that you can get. A lot of people criticize the book The Secret, another book that I have read, but I put it in the discard pile. That book is like about manifesting, and people critique it because they're like, well, if everybody just got stuff because they thought of having stuff, then everybody would be rich. But that's not how it works. How it works is you can only get what you really believe you already have. And so a lot of these books of self-made millionaires, they just really believed that they deserved $1 million. They still put actions towards it. You don't just like wish upon a star and then it boom falls in your lap. You still put actions towards it, but what you focus on grows, basically. If it's plausible, it's possible. They don't say that in here. I don't, that was dumb. I'm sorry. Defeat disbelief and the negative power it creates. For those of you who think like you just keep failing and like your life's a failure, like, what am I doing? How come everyone else gets it? This book, Failing Forward, is awesome because it's not about failing your whole life. It's about how not to shun your failures, like to take them and learn from them. Nobody who's ever gotten super successful has had a perfect record, like where they just never failed. Like they failed a lot, you just didn't see it. So it's more about like taking your failures and studying them and being like, what didn't work about that? And then adjusting. I don't remember all of the things that I loved about this book. I just remember loving this book. Also, when it comes to authenticity and just like really getting to know yourself and what you really want from your life, not like trying to carbon copy someone else's life, these books by The Angry Therapist, who we also had on our Shit They Don't Tell You podcast, these were really good too. This one's more designed towards men, but I mean, women can read it too, obviously. I liked this one better, even though I think it took on a more self-published feel. I liked the information and the exercises in this book better. A no BS guide to finding and living your own truth. I guess you would call this category spirituality. I don't know what else to call it. This one's called You Can Heal Your Life, and it's more on that homeopathic type of woo-woo stuff, but it was an interesting read. This is by Louise Hay, and she talks about how she basically like cured her own cancer. This one's if you just want to get mind fucked. Holographic Universe by Michael Talbot. He presents some different research studies that have been done by accredited people, psychologists, doctors, physicists, all types of different people. Smart people did studies. Basically, it's that we haven't disproven the theory that there are a bunch of identical universes, parallel universes, and that we're living in one of them and we don't know if it's the base reality or not. And also that maybe this physical realm isn't how we actually see it, and that our mind is projecting it like a hologram. Very fascinating. Another kind of spiritual book is this one, Power of Now by Eckhart Tolle. I actually like his other book better, but I can't find it right now. I even had it on the vlog channel earlier this year. It always disappears, but then it comes back when I need it. It's called A New Earth. That book is like my Bible. I just love everything about it. He takes studies from different religions and also just different teachings from his own life, and it's a really enlightening book. I don't have it on hand, but it's somewhere. Maybe I loaned it out to somebody. I don't remember. This is his other book, Power of Now. This is the more famous book. This one I haven't read yet. It's about astrology. It's called The Inner Sky. I did take some excerpts out of it for a Big Mood episode, but it's less of the woo-woo part of astrology and more getting down to like where it came from and stuff. This one's called The Empath Experience. And I bought it because I didn't know how to deal with my feelings. I have like a lot of feelings all the time. And a lot of times they're not even my feelings. I'm just around like a sad person and then I become really, really sad. But I'm not sad over anything. I just took on their sadness. So someone recommended that maybe perhaps I'm an empath, and I read this book and it feels right. I've never felt so seen as I did when reading this book. It's a great read if you are somebody that's very emotional and don't know where it's coming from. This book, An Artist's Way, this is like if you are getting into a more creative field, or if you're already an artist and you're kind of stuck, or you are a beginning artist and you want to incorporate exercises into your daily life that help you retain your creativity or keep that like creative flow going. This is a great book for that. Tuesdays with Maury. Just really good life lessons from a dying old man. It's to happiness. These are based off of Buddhist principles, but I actually found this at a used book sale and picked it up when I was in peak depression, and it did make me a little happier. The next category is biographies. I have read a ton of biographies on people. I don't have half of them. Most of them went into that donation pile because I was like, oh, I already know their story. Like, I don't need this book anymore. I have a lot of comedians, so I have Tina Fey's Bossy Pants, Amy Poehler's book, Yes Please. I didn't really like this book, to be honest with you, but I do like Amy Poehler, so I kept this. Mindy Kaling, this one is actually the funniest biography from a comedian that I've read. I got this one, Girl Boss, back before Nasty Gal had all that controversy, but I still think her story is really fascinating. This book, Stella Adler, she was my hero with acting. Oh, and there's an Eminem biography, of course, on the shelf over there. Wouldn't be complete without it. And then these, oh, I forgot my Joanna Gaines book downstairs, but Joanna Gaines' book is, she has a book called Home or something like that. I don't remember. I'm sorry, I suck at this. But it's a great book, and it's more visual than reading. It's a great reference book. I also think that these are great reference books. This one's The Curated Closet, and this was more about finding your fashion style or your wardrobe style. The only thing is by the time I found this book, I had already watched so many YouTube videos on it that I kind of understood already, and it was more of a refresh. But I do like it because it breaks down everything from beginning to end that I actually did do, and I felt like I found more of a sense of what my style is. As you can tell from my outfit right now and this whole year, I'm a fashion queen. Hello. I'm the worst person to try to sell you this book, but I liked this book. I thought it was really well done, and it has a lot of homework that you have to do, but you will find your style. You will. And this one, obviously, this is the one that made me throw out all my books, but I do like the principles that are in this. This is Marie Kondo's The Life-Changing Magic of Tidying Up. Everybody knows her now. I read it before it was cool, okay? I read it in 2015, and then she got that Netflix series like last year that everybody went crazy. But anyway, it was a great book. Good job, Marie Kondo. I'm also reading this book right now currently, The PayPal Wars. It's the history of how PayPal, the company, came to be. Yeah, I'll tell you the secret that the company that I made the most money on in the stock market this year was in fact PayPal. I really like this company a lot. And this is not a recommendation to invest into PayPal. I think it's really overvalued right now. But I will say that I am looking at it, and I do own stocks in it. There's a lot more books. I have a couple crystal Bibles. A lot of people were like, how did you learn so much about crystals? There's this set of crystal Bibles by Judy Hall. Crystal Bible 1, 2, 3. She might have a fourth now, but I have 2 of them, and they're great reference books. A lot of those are reference books over there. There's a thesaurus. Anyway, I hope you liked this video. Those of you who wanted it, there you go, you got it. I don't know when I would have done this video if not for Vlogmas. I think everybody should be interested in books. Huge fan of reading. Please, everybody, go read. And by the way, if you're like having trouble figuring out like when you have time to read, I started out by just telling myself I'll read 10 pages a day. 10 pages is so easy to read. It takes you 10 minutes, 15 if you read a little slow, but 15 minutes. And if you read 10 pages a day, you would be reading 300 pages a month. Most of these books are less than 300 pages. So you would be reading a book a month if you just committed to reading 10 pages a day. Also, if you want the cliff notes on all these book recommends, you can check out my highlight reel on my Instagram profile. I have a highlight reel of basically all of these books in all of those corresponding categories that you can look at any time and reference. That's it. I'll get off my soapbox now. I hope you all learn to love to read. I will never stop reading. I never feel like I know enough. The more I read, the more I know how much I don't know, and it makes me inspired. I also feel dumb, but I feel inspired and dumb, and that's better than being complacent and dumb. And I'll leave with that.
I wish I was a little bit taller. I wish I was a baller. I wish I had a boy with some six-pack abs and a sweet Cadillac who would take the time to call me.